Hey, what's up guys, Sir Emanon here, and despite what it looks like on the screen right now, this is going to be the Gouki deck profile that many of you guys have been requesting. So I'm going to format the video a little bit differently from your standard deck profile, and I've actually done this a couple of times previously on my channel, in case you guys are new here. But if you guys do remember the couple of times that I did this on rare occasions, what I would do is I would create a brand new blank template on Dueling Book, and then just input the cards in individually and kind of just talk about card choices that way, because it affords me the opportunity to actually go through the logic and reasoning behind deck building a lot easier, and it provides better insight as far as how you can approach deck building yourselves if you guys are interested in learning like different philosophies as far as starting from a blank slate. Because if you're interested, like, I think net decking is definitely like fine to do to a certain extent. Otherwise, deck profiles wouldn't exist and be as popular as they are. But it's also as important to kind of figure out why the choices are being made the way they are. So, if you guys haven't been seeing the couple videos on my channel lately, Gouki I feel is a deck that has a bit of a sleeper position in the metagame. Because it has a bit of a niche that other decks don't, in that its engine is very, very recursive, and Rematch is honestly just a killer bomb card. It's a very good extender, and it's extremely good in the mid game. And just the ability to play some of the best engines that the game currently has to offer, as well as just being resilient in its own right, makes it a pretty interesting choice. Certainly not amongst the top tier, I don't think personally, but I definitely believe it can contend with the best. So let's go ahead and grab a new deck here. Let's just call it Gouki. And I do actually have another copy of the actual list here in Dueling Books, so we can go ahead and check to see how accurate I ended up being. But yeah, let's go ahead and just get started. So first off, we obviously got to go through the Goukis. So the best one by far is Suprex. This is the Marauding Captain, essentially for Goukis. If you open this plus any Gouki, you can play through almost every single hand trap. That includes Impermanence, Ash, and Valor on Isolde. And that includes Nibiru, that includes Ghost Ogre on the second effect of Isolde. It includes pretty much everything, so you definitely want to see this card. It is the most important card of the deck by far. And by the way, if you guys do want to see various combos as well as ways to play through hand traps, I will definitely be working on that if you guys want me to. Just be sure to leave a like in the video. If it gets 100 likes, then I will get it out to you as fast as possible. So yeah, Suprex, very solid. Pretty much the best starter that the deck has. Next best one, actually, in my opinion, this is going to be maybe a controversial pick, but I think 3 Headbat is actually correct. So let me explain this. Traditional builds of Gouki usually play just one of this, maybe 2. Because this is the one that you want to be searching off of your first Gouki that you link away, so that you can use it after you resolve Isolde. Now, the thing is that if you get hand trapped, you want to see this card as a means of extension past your opponent's hand trap. Because if you see, for example, Gouki plus like 2 warrior extenders, like you could easily have like a Gouki on the board remaining so that you can resolve Headbat afterward. So like there's instances where that exists, and there's also instances where if you get hand trapped and one of your recovery plays is a Reborn type card for you to get back a Gouki on the field, and that's like one of the best ways that you can just pretend as if the hand trap didn't happen. Like you exchange the hand trap for like another card in your hand that essentially fulfill the same purpose. So cards I'm talking about in that department would be like Monster Reborn or like World Legacy Succession, which I do play, spoiler alert, or a Living Fossil. All these cards, if you see, basically invalidate hand traps on Isolde's second effect, because the entire point of Isolde is just to get another Gouki name on the board. Like, sure, like it kind of sucks if you have to use a Reborn card that you won't get an additional Gouki search, so it hurts the grind a little bit, but the entire point is that you can just play the game in general. And it's true that you don't need to specifically see Headbat if you like see Suprex plus Gouki, because you can play through hand traps even without like having to resolve Headbat in those cases. But I think that it's totally okay, because you're not going to see Suprex all the time, right? It's just a 3 of, and you have Rhoda, so it's a 4 of. But like, you want to see more surefire ways of actually playing through hand traps, because the boards that this deck pumps out, if unhindered, they rival that of the best decks of the entire format. But the issue comes, of course, when you put hand traps into the equation, and you got to assume this format that everyone's on hand traps just because of the prevalence of like Dragon Link and like Infernoble and all these other combo decks. everyone's preparing for them. So I always assume that opponent has a hand trap. So you got to just find ways to actually mitigate that. And I think that Headbat is actually one of the best ways to do so. So despite it being like considered the traditional brick, because this is more of like a pure Gouki centric build, like you kind of do want to see a lot of Goukis. You just want to guarantee see a Gouki in every hand. Like the best hands are obviously like Super X plus Gouki, but even Warrior plus Gouki a lot of the time is good enough. And you want to have a healthy abundance of them just so you like ensure that you don't brick. Because I am playing a slightly higher card count to be able to lessen the impact of playing a lot of the bricks because we're of course playing like Dragoon and stuff. So I think just having a higher density of Goukis to make up for that, as well as Warrior Extenders, makes it so that you can insulate your deck with more engine cards, which effectively makes it so that you don't lose out on consistency, but you also improve consistency in that you don't draw your bricks, if that makes sense. So I don't think it's actually much of an issue drawing like that many Goukis in abundance. If anything, playing more Headbats makes drawing more Goukis even better because it makes it so you have more pitch fodder to be able to actually resolve this, right? So it just works out. If you play a lot of Goukis, like Headbat like should definitely be at 3 in my personal opinion. All right, next up on the list is one of the not as important ones, but it's Twist Cobra. It's alright. Its effects on field comes up very, very seldom. It's just another name, to be honest. Like you just want more Goukis that like do something, as in they actually float and are different names. You don't want to max out on all the Goukis because at that point you're just kind of asking to brick on like multiples and duplicates. But you only want to see like the ones that are actually extenders, like the ones that actually put themselves onto the board in some way or put like another body onto the board. And these are the only 2 Goukis that actually directly do that. So yeah, Twist Cobra is basically just another name. Similar with Ironclaw. This is essentially just another name. It's worse than Twist Cobra because it's a level 2, meaning that you can't like it works worse with Headbat since Rematch Reborns with different levels, not different names. So since they're both level 2, you can't like revive these. So like it might come up in instances where like these are the only Gouki names that you have. So Ironclaw I think is the worst Gouki name. And it's a monster effect. I'm gonna be totally honest, I don't even know what it does. I'm reading it right now, and it is not very good. So yeah, this is probably the least relevant one, but it still has the floating effect. So I still opted to play just one. Next up is the level 1. So we got 2 copies of Guts and 2 copies of Octo Stretch. So Guts, in my opinion, is the better one. I explained this in my last Road to 1000 Olympic grading video, but essentially with Guts, if there's instances where you can rematch this thing back and just leave it on the board if you don't have enough extension, but like you can make your regular combo, but you have like an extra errant monster on the field. This is the best one to leave out because it's a defensive wall that your opponent is probably not going to commit resources to like actually out this, and they can't kill it in battle, obviously. So like it's going to generate you even more cards for the following turn, which is really, really good. Because the other thing about playing more Headbats is that it makes having this on board even better. Because then you can search like another Headbat and get even more pluses beyond just your rematch push. Because Headbat being another push is just an insane amount of value. You just get so many monsters, and it's so hard for your opponent to deal with. So I really, really do like the ability for you to just have so many Goukis as follow-up. And the Octo Stretch, it's alright. It's a level 1, and opening a level 1 Gouki is actually nice, because there are some combos you can do when you open the level 1 Goukis, especially with one of the extenders that we play, which we can talk about a bit later. But yeah, like the level 1s are really nice just because like Link Rebo is a great way to just get Gouki search for free. That does definitely come into play. And it's the most common level to summon off of Isolde, so you want to ensure that you just never dead draw these. Like, say you open like Super X plus Guts, then you want to summon Octo Stretch off of the Isolde. Makes sense, right? So whichever one you don't open, you just summon off the Isolde, and you're totally fine that way. So yeah, that is it for the Goukis. It is 13 Goukis, which is a relatively high density of them, I would say. But I think that this is a very Gouki-centric list, and I think that the deck plays in such a way where you actually use the Goukis as leverage to make big pushes, and of course you definitely want to see at least one of them. I guess a point to talk about is why I'm not playing a Scorpio. So Scorpio conflicts with well, it utilizes your normal summon, which is not really that big of a hindrance, but it conflicts with one of the extenders that I play, which I guess I can talk about right now, which is Junk Forward. So yeah, if you play Junk Forward and you open that with your Scorpio, you know you can't summon both of them and have them both on board. So like that's one of the reasons. Another reason is just that like later into the game, it just isn't as impactful because like if like parts of your board get broken but not your entire board, then like you definitely want like one of the Goukis you can actually just readily normal summon and then link it to a play like immediately, because you don't want to risk ever having like a dead Scorpio in your hand, and then Bear Hug just isn't like that good. There's actually Moonsault, or I think that's what it's called. Yeah, Gouki Moonsault. This card's actually pretty cool if you play like a very pure Gouki list, where you play like a lot more of the Gouki Link monsters. Because which one is it? It is Thunder Ogre, which allows you to get an extra normal summon. So Moonsault actually allows you to bounce a Gouki back to your hand and then special this card to the field. So what you can do is like you can rematch back like a Super X, and you can bounce the Super X and then use the Thunder Ogre to get another normal summon of Super X, because that effect actually isn't a once per turn, it's just on normal summon. So if you can normal summon this thing twice, you actually get an immense amount of value out of it, if you provided you can of course resolve it. So that's like a really interesting thing you can do. There are combos with this thing, but if you're going Isolde, then you're not really going the Gouki Link monster route for the most part. So I figured that it's just not necessary. Plus, it doesn't float, which is critical. Like, it's not one that floats when it goes to grave. So, and it's a level 6, so like if you draw it by itself, it's really bad. So I figured just not gonna play it. But moving on to the extenders, I already mentioned Junk Forward. It's like one of the freest ones. Like I don't want to max out in this card because like you're not trying to draw two warriors. You're trying to draw specifically at least one Gouki. So like normally drawing like 2 forwards is fine, because like you go special one, normal the other, make Isolde. But that's not actually a combo in this deck, because you need more than just like the Gouki name that you special off Isolde to actually do anything. Because like summoning a Guts and then linking it for Link Rebo, like what are you going to be searching for? Like, you can't search for Rematch because you didn't start off with a Gouki. So you're not really getting anywhere from that by itself. So you definitely want to see Goukis. That's why I'm playing less extenders, but I'm still playing enough so you can see them and not be overly reliant on drawing Super X, or in certain instances in like Gouki dense hands, Headbat. So yeah, that's why 2 Junk Forward here. And then the other extender is Firefoot Lady, the really good extender that everyone's playing in Infernoble. But yeah, this card is amazing. It just is a free summon, and its other effect is actually quite relevant at certain spots, because you can actually open this with a level 1 Gouki, and then like in some spots, if you get hand trapped, like you can turn the level 1 Gouki into Link Rebo, and then use Firefoot Lady's other effect, and then summon that Gouki out of your hand. So it's a nice way to be able to just like get more Gouki names if you don't have as many to start with, so you can go into like your rematch afterwards. So there's definitely ways to utilize this card, and it's really nice. So yeah, this is just a free extender, and it is pretty good. I really like it. The next extender is a single copy of Blue Mountain Butter Spy. So this is the worst one in my opinion, but it does allow you to just again get a free body on the board. Like the chain blocking thing doesn't really come up because we're not specifically trying to chain block anything. There's nothing to chain block. But yeah, it's just a nice one of. It doesn't work if you draw it in multiples, unlike the other ones, which technically still do work. Like I mentioned, you know, like drawing 2 forwards isn't really a play, and it still holds true. But at least it gets you kind of somewhere. Whereas 2 Butter Spies literally doesn't do anything. So yeah, definitely you never want to see more than one of this, so you only play 1. And like all these extenders are effectively the same thing in the majority of cases. It's that Firefoot Lady actually has an effect that can come up, but for the most part, you're not really using these as anything other than just additional bodies. Oh, notably too, Firefoot Lady is level 1, so you can turn this into Link Rebo. And turning stuff into Link Rebo is important because it's a dark for Rusty, and that is very key. And then the final thing I should mention for the consistency department is Rhoda. Yeah, you have to play this card, of course. All right, so moving onwards, we can talk about, let's see, what do we want to talk about next? We can go and talk about the extenders and ways to play through hand traps. So first off is Rematch. This is an extender and a bomb all in one card. I'm opting to play it at 2 here. So the thing is that games, I feel, even though they can grind, they don't grind on long enough for this to be warranted at 3, I feel. Like, if you're grinding for that long, I feel like you've already lost, because that means that like you just didn't get enough established, or you didn't get enough to stick early on into the game. Perhaps you can make an argument for like it's better when you go second, because you're often trying to expend this to break a board, and then like you need another one in future turns to possibly rebuild, and then a third one to maybe close out games. Like that could come up. But I think in the majority of cases, like this card, you actually don't love seeing it in your opening hand, because like you don't have any problems searching it. Like there's no point in not searching it in a lot of cases, and like having it is like nice, like hard drawn, but I feel like it just doesn't contribute. It's not a starter. It doesn't contribute to your plays. And there's other cards that, like, this is a situational recovery card if you get hand trapped, whereas the other cards I'm going to talk about soon enough are guaranteed. So let's talk about those cards. So we got Monster Reborn. This is probably the most, the most famous one as far as just getting a free extra body on the board if you do get stopped. So like this, you can always activate no matter like how your opening hand was or how you got hand trapped. Whereas Rematch requires you to specifically have opened a way to eventually land 2 Goukis in the graveyard, right? So like there are cases where you do get hand trapped and you can still recover with Rematch, specifically Nibiru, and in some cases, depending on if like open Super X plus Gouki, of course, like that's a case where you can just use Rematch to recover your entire board. That's totally fine. But a Reborn, no matter how you open, will always get you access to that Gouki back. And like I mentioned with Headbat, the way you recover from hand traps is that like you do your normal play by searching Headbat, and then you Reborn back a Gouki name, and then you just activate Headbat as if nothing happened to the Isolde. So Reborn is one of the cards that does that. Another card that does that is, of course, Living Fossil. And Living Fossil is, of course, one of the equips that you play for the Isolde, of course, so you just don't have to brick. But I ended up finding that I like this card so much that I bumped it up to 2. So, of course, it's not great to draw these in multiples, that's true. But you want more cards that just allow you to recover more readily. And the best way to recover is just natively hard drawing Super X plus Gouki, in which case like you feel very, very good against hand traps, like almost impervious. But in the cases where you don't draw that optimally, which, I mean, let's be fair, Gouki Super X is not going to be drawn in every single hand. You have to have other ways to account for that. And I think just having more contingency plans, like these are basically like drawing Super X's, because like instead of starting with an extra Gouki name right off the bat as you would with Super X, you are exchanging it for a Gouki later on if you do get hand trapped, provided that you open a way to get into Isolde with just any other Gouki name. So I think Living Fossil is really, really good for that case. And it's not a problem really that the monster gets banished, because a lot of times, of course, if you're reborning as a recovery play, then you're not getting the search anyway because you already got it that turn. If you draw it later on in the game, then it could be a little bit unfortunate if it's like your only extender, but in most cases you'll have a rematch or a way to access Rematch, so like that's also not too big of a deal either. So Living Fossil I find is a very, very good way to just ensure that Valor, Ash, Imperm hurt as little as possible on your Isolde, because let's be real, that is your biggest choke point. So we need ways to recover from that. And similarly, we have World Legacy Succession. So this might be like a riskier card to run, because you might they'd be thinking, oh, you don't always have access to zones, but provided that you don't you're gonna chain block in a way where you don't get Ghost Ogred on Isolde's first effect, so it's never gonna leave the board at that point. And then if you ever are fearing Ogre or Gamma, specifically Gamma, which negates and takes Isolde off the board, you just Succession first, and then you can go into Isolde play after. And then if you're like wondering, well, at that point, then like wouldn't Headbat being summoned kind of just leave you vulnerable to Nibiru. Like first off, you can actually still play through Nibiru even at that point. But second, you could go into Appaloosa and then rematch and then use Headbat, and then that's effectively like, it's effectively as if, again, this is all assuming that Isolde resolves, but it is effectively the same board. You just have an extra extender, and that's like a situation where something like a defense position guts would come up later, right? So whoops. So definitely would recommend playing Succession to some degree. I really like this card a lot. I'm already 20 minutes in, so I should pick up the pace just a little tiny bit. Alright, so that's it for those like extension cards. Other cards in the spell department, we have Phoenix Blade. This is a very, very solid equip spell. It's the main way that you pitch for Dragoon, or the main card that you pitch for Dragoon. That's like the really nice thing I love about this deck is that Dragoon is always free. Like you always get to negate, and you never feel bad about losing an engine card or anything. Oh wait, I forgot about the biggest way to play through hand traps is Call by the Grave. So granted, like the hand traps that hurt the most are Imperm and Gamma, which of course Call by doesn't stop, but Valor is a bit more popular, and Ash is still popular. If Ogre and Joel pick up, then you also could utilize this and be fine with it. I'm not playing Magical Midbreaker Field, and the reason why is that I end on double Fogblade instead of like the rank 4 that most people are doing, which I'll talk about, especially in the combo video. But yeah, Fogblade targets, so you definitely do not want to, like, you'll be protected from your own turn, but you won't be able to interact on their turn. So yeah, definitely do not recommend, at least if you're going all in on like the Fogblades like I am, playing Midbreaker. Also, it makes it harder to, like, if you're going second, like, actually target their things with nightmares and things that you want to actually use to break boards. So I just find that like Midbreaker, especially for being a one-of, is not really that worth it. Whereas Call by, even though it is also a one-of, it's one that is more readily usable in more circumstances and is not really ever going to hinder you in the way that Midbreaker Field can. So next up is, probably should just talk about the Phantom Knights. So the Phantom Knight package is, I would say, fairly standard. But there's a couple things to talk about. So we got the cloak, we got the 1 boots, we got double Fogblade like I mentioned, and I play actually 2 Shape-Brigandines. So a lot of people would probably just play 1 of each of the traps. But Shape-Brigandine's actually a warrior extender, so it can even go up here as like the warrior extenders, if you will. Like just this additional summons, the special summons. But the way that I combo is not to use this as a rank 4 material, which is nice because if you do happen to hard draw, you don't have to feel bad about using this into Isolde and like not have a play afterward. Because if you do hard draw, like you're never really setting it off of the Rusty or searching it off the boots because your aim goal or your end goal is to get double Fogblade anyways. So yeah, I think it's just really solid to have this as kind of like a mutable extender, if you will. It can be an extender early on if you hard draw it, or later on if you want to use it for your Rusty play, which I find to be very, very nice to have flexibility. So it makes it also like if you hard draw one of your traps, like you're never really feeling too bad because you're never going to run out of search targets for either your boots or your, even in some cases your cloak if you like hard draw boots, or like your Rusty. And playing like only 2 PK monsters, kind of risky, especially if you draw the cloak. That actually sucks a lot of the time. But it's a trade-off that you kind of have to make at certain points. So that is it for the Phantom Knights. Next up, we got the hand traps. So we got 3 Ash and 3 copies of Valor. So I'm not playing Imperm because it conflicts with Shape-Brigandine if you do happen to draw it. And like I said, like if you draw it, you want to be able to just freely use it as an extender. So I figured, you know, I don't really want that to be that much of a conflict. And Valor is not as strong of a card, of course, but it still is like decent enough, especially now that Call by went to 1, you know, it's going to be resolving a lot of the time. And I figure like these are fairly, they're low impact hand traps, but they're high versatility. You could easily swap out Valor for like Nibiru. You could easily play Ghost Ogre if you want to. You could play like a myriad of other hand traps. You could also play Imperm if you do decide to go like just the 1-in-1 trap count, which is definitely something that works. But yeah, this is the hand trap lineup I stuck with. 6 is kind of low, especially for this format, and I do recognize this, but you know, sometimes you just gotta hope that you get there. You could try and find more space for more hand traps, but I just like having a consistent deck. So that is my take on that. And then for the engine requirements, finally, we have the 1 copy of Codebreaker 0 Day. We are playing the Codebreaker stuff, so, you know, not really too surprising there. It's just your extender, and then we have the Red Eyes Dark Dragoon stuff. So we got the Red Eyes Black Dragon, we got the Red Eyes Fusion. I guess I can just put Dragoon in the extra deck right now. We got the Dragoon, and then we got Dark Magician. So yeah, these are the bricks. You don't want to see these, but you have a less chance of seeing them because you're playing slightly more cards. The only one you really hate seeing is Red Eyes Fusion, because like you don't feel that bad if you have to use one of your cards in your hand to fuse, like if you draw one of the vanillas, because like you're getting a card back with Phoenix Blade, so like the card you're pitching for Dragoon is free anyway, so you're never really missing out too badly. Of course they still suck to draw, but it's not as bad. Alright, so that is it for the main deck. We'll go through the extra deck. The extra deck is pretty self-explanatory. We got 2 copies of Isolde, your primary playmaker. We got the Codebreaker stuff, which is like really good. For those guys who don't know, if Fire Swordsman is summoned and it is co-linked, you summon a 0 Day from your hand deck or grave to any zone a link monster points to. It has another effect where if it was destroyed in your possession and in the graveyard, you can revive it during the end phase. But it is not really that consequential. And then you link off the 0 Day and the Swordsman into Virus Berserker, which is, again, when it's co-linked, you get to summon up to 2 Codebreakers from your hand or grave to any zones that link monsters point to. And also has a nice spell and trap destruction effect, which is really cool. You can destroy spells or traps non-targeting up to the number of linked Codebreaker monsters on the field, so that is 3 if this resolves. So yeah, pretty solid card. But it's mostly there just so you can have 3 free bodies, because you're going to have both the link monsters and the 0 Day to be able to just keep extending. And the thing you're extending into is the Rusty. So Rusty is extremely good in this deck, and the Codebreakers happen to be dark, so you are pretty good there. One thing that a lot of people are playing in this deck is Link Cross, because Link Cross allows you to technically become one of the materials for Verite Anaconda, and allows you to keep the 0 Day on the board, so you can use Shade Brigandine to make a rank 4, either Time Thief, Redoer, or Dweller, and then go into Verite afterward. The problem is it's not really a problem, it's just the exchange is that you're giving up a Fog Blade because you have to use Shade Brigandine as one of your resources off of Rusty, whereas the resources that I'm getting off Rusty are usually 2 Fog Blades. So it's like you're trading a rank 4 for a Fog Blade anyway, and you're committing 2 spots in the extra deck, whereas I personally would just rather have utility. And like one might argue that Link Cross could help play through hand traps, and like that's what people are probably going to be thinking, because that's the way you play through hand traps in like Infernoble and Dragon Link. But in this deck, since there's no Synchroing, there's no Needle Fiber, there's none of that, the tokens you generate are usually not going to be conducive to actually comboing off, unless you're able to get Link Rebo engraved, which in some cases, like, yeah, that's fine, but you're exchanging a Link 2 for 2 Link 1s, which is the same number of Link materials. The only reason why it would come up is that a Link Rebo is a dark to help get into Rusty, which definitely is a factor that is worth considering. But in a lot of cases, you can actually just link into the Virus Swordsman, which is also a dark, like I mentioned. So, and it's just completely generic for some reason with effect monsters. So I really don't think Link Cross is actually needed for any of the combos. Even the ones that involve getting hand trapped. So with that, I actually get to save 2 extra deck spots, which allows me to, again, add more utility cards, which I am always a big fan of utility cards, personally. I like having options, especially in a deck like this, which is so toolboxy. Next up, we got Link Rebo, which I've mentioned on several occasions. So Link Rebo, very strong. As far as being able to turn any Gouki into any search, as well as just getting access to Rusty. It's a very good backup play for when you do get hand trapped. It comes up a lot. Definitely needed for sure. Next up, we got the Nightmares. Standard things for going second. You absolutely want these. I'm playing Cerberus as well, but Cerberus, Phoenix, and Unicorn. I always like Cerberus in dinosaur formats. It's a very neat way to get rid of, a clean way to get rid of Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. Which is something that I think is needed in certain instances. And the cool thing with the nightmares is, of course, you can always chain block them, so they're always resolving when you link them away with Goukis, and that's like the cool thing. So yeah, you are always going to ensure that these go through against like various negations, which is very, very nice. And Phoenix Blade makes them free. Like, Phoenix Blade is just such a broken card. I really like it. It's just so broken, like in the way that the extra deck utilizes it. Okay, next up we got what do we got? I'm trying to think. Oh yeah, we got Verte, of course, because we are playing Dragoon. That is pretty self-explanatory. I'm going completely off memory here, so we're doing our best here. Oh, we have Appaloosa because that is one of the end piece negations. We have Access Code, which is one of the ways that you actually can break boards, just like the big push. I have Borreload, which is I think the best card for its spot because it does something that the rest of the deck can't, which is just non-targeting removal. Like, everything else in this deck pretty much targets. So you really want stuff for that. And then we have the last card, which is Mascarena. That's right. So Mascarena is a generic link to Dark, which is useful for going into Rusty, and it's also useful as a possible end piece in it, like in its own right, which is really, really good. So like when you get Nibiru'd, you can just use a token, like the Nibiru token plus one of the Goukis to make this, and then another Gouki to make Link Rebo, and that, bam, that gets you right into Rusty. So super duper good stuff. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and one of the cards that you could consider playing, and one of the cards I'm very close to playing, and I might actually play. So keep this in mind if you're watching the possible combo video that's coming up. Is a Link Spider. So this is a card that is useful if you do get Nibiru, but also for turning the Shade Brigadine into an effect monster, because you need effect monsters to go into Verte. So keep that in mind, that is actually something that I am actively considering playing, and I might cut either Borreload or possibly Cerberus, though I've been liking Cerberus. But you can cut one of those for Link Spider, and that would be a good way to be another insurance policy against Nibiru. So finally, the side deck. The side deck is pretty interesting. You can tailor it to whatever meta. It's always just kind of there as just a toolbox. But we got Pankratops, which I think is probably the best side deck card in the game right now. Then we got Backrow Hate. So we got Feather Duster. We got Reboot. Whoops. And then we have, I personally like Cosmic Cyclone a lot this format. I think it's just such a versatile card. You can play Lightning Storm as well. Lightning Storm is a card I would want to fit, but I just didn't find the space for it. And then we got more hand traps because there's not enough in the main deck. So 3 Nibiru, and then 3 Gamma. Whoops. So these are just obviously for going second. The deck is very, very good at going first, so you don't need too many cards for going first. But I opted to go with triple Tactics Talent, 2 copies. The third one was cut for the driver. So yeah, this is pretty much the list that I have been playing for a couple of days now, and I've really been enjoying it. It has its weaknesses for sure, but it is pretty strong because just the Goukis are very, very good at playing, playing multiple turns and playing it out of multiple spots. So yeah, let's go ahead and compare this to the Gouki list that I've actually been playing, which is this one. And it's the same list, so there you go. But anyways, that is going to do it for this video. Let me know if you guys have any comments or questions, and again, let me know if you guys want to see a combo video. 100 likes, and I will get it out to you by ideally Wednesday. So that will be the goal. But anyways, that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like as well as any thoughts or feedback in the comment section down below. Feel free to subscribe for more informative and competitive Yu-Gi-Oh content. If you want to, you can follow me on Discord, Twitter, or Twitch. All 3 links in the description as always. And once again, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I'll catch you in the next video. See you guys!